The Mars exploration rovers are not situated on the surface of Mars and never left the Earth. As I say, you can download this 50-page document, this hypothesis, from the link on the screen. How many other TV shows would you get a 50-page hypothesis of evidence to back up what we're talking about? Now, here to discuss the claims in the hypothesis is researcher Andrew Johnson. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Richard.
Okay, now I mentioned the moon there, Andrew, and you're, I would say, convinced as you can be that Apollo never went to the moon, and we've gone through a lot of that evidence as to why you think that. Where do you stand on these Mars missions, Andrew?
Well, it's very interesting to think about because, you know, I have done talks about the Mars missions as well, as you probably know, and some of the viewers perhaps have had a look around on the websites and stuff. So it's kind of, you know, once you've broken through the Apollo barrier, if you want to call it that, and you realise that there's no possible way that they could have done what they did, what they claim to have done on the moon, then, you know, you do have to open up yourself to the idea that perhaps because of similar complications with technology, maybe these rover missions, you know, are not as claimed, certainly not as claimed. Mm-hmm. And kind of, I suppose, you know, you've rightly gone forward with your document mm-hmm. to try and explore where we get to when we look at the evidence and try and study it a bit more deeply with this deeply skeptical mindset that we come to, having found out some of the huge problems with the Apollo record.
I found the more I looked, the more the official version of the photographs, the official story behind them, started to fall apart. Right. And it's been 18 months now, and everywhere I look, it's the same as the Apollo missions. I know most people still believe we went to the moon, but if you look really carefully at any single aspect of the science, it just comes apart.
In the introduction, I set out the reasons why the reader should not just dismiss this hypothesis, because a lot of people will do that. And the reason they'll come up with is they'll say, well, why would they do that? There's no logical reason why they would possibly fake a mission to Mars. Well, let's look at the evidence before we decide why they've done it. Let's look at what happened before we look at why they may have done it.
Always a good method, yes.
Yeah, so investigation before condemnation. And we're going to do some of the investigating today. We'll just start by having a quick look at previous alleged missions to Mars. Now, we've got from 1964 up to the present day, we've got a lot of attempted Mars missions, the majority of which actually failed. Yep. Most of these were either flybys or orbiters, and we've got a number of craft which are currently allegedly in orbit around Mars. It's all in this table on the screen there, and we've got a number of craft which have landed on Mars, starting with the Viking mission in 1976. I mean, here's another interesting fact. The rover's operating temperature is -40 to +40 degrees centigrade. So right. Presumably they've been tested to operate in that range. The average surface temperature of Mars is estimated to be -55 degrees C. That's the average temperatures of Mars. At the equator, which is obviously the hottest point, temperature varies from 20 degrees C maximum to -73 degrees minimum. So the temperature that they're on Mars at, -73, is way below the minimum operating temperature. So,
and that's right. And then you also consider it in terms of if anybody has ever taken their radio out into cold weather or a torch, trying to switch it on, you'll find that the battery performance at those sorts of temperatures is very much reduced. Yeah. And it's literally got to put it in your pocket to get the battery going again with a pocket torch or whatever. Yeah. Anyone can try that. So how are they getting this power system to work?
I would expect a device like a rover to probably have several test specifications, each with hundreds, if not thousands, of tests to test against mandatory requirements. All signed off, but all we've got is a few videos from NASA. We can look at this one that they've put out, which was the drop test.
Oh yeah.
So we'll just have a look at this now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
So, big fanfare, but what actually happened in that test? We saw something kind of blow it to the ground. Now, I've worked on systems which lower nuclear weapons into Trident submarines, right? And when we're testing that type of equipment, they're operating within, let's say, certain acceleration parameters and velocities. So you don't know that the thing's passed the test until you've got your test data back. Because what we used to do when I was at Faslane nuclear base, we put a 125-ton bag of water on the end of a crane and we'd drop it and then see if the braking system worked, and the accelerations will be measured, and then you wouldn't know until afterwards it's passed the test. You certainly wouldn't stand there clapping your hands. So it just, I don't buy it, you know.
It's right. I mean, if you watch that video, which I think is the test of this so-called sky crane drop mechanism which was allegedly used in the landing of the Curiosity rover. Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, you know, it's like they've set up this rig, they've dropped something down, and they're looking up, oh, it hasn't broken. You know, therefore it's passed the test. You know, so that's what it looks like to us. I mean, you know, again, there may be things that we can't actually see, but why can't we see more of those? Somebody, you know, going through a list of checkpoints, you know, on a list, or like
you'd end up with a very long tube, probably extending twice the size of the universe, because when you collapse the universe, it expands, and it would be, you wouldn't want to put it into a tube.
This moment on, the camera will not cut away. There will be one continuous shot until after the explorer has disappeared. More importantly, remember, what you're watching at home is exactly the same as if you were here with us today. Cool. Here it goes.
It was there, and then it was totally not there.
Were these people actors or real? And that's generally, I can't tell when you see Americans talking, because they're so used to television and Oprah.
This is really weird.
The universe. What a concept.
Exploring our universe.
And up here, it's the Tillman's crest. So you can kind of picture that it's a little bit like a leaf, or
it stretches us. It extends us.
And for example, you have Grauman's Center right here, and then you have Undiscovered Worlds and Sector 8.
When we explore, we're really asking questions about ourselves. How grand are we?
The time it takes to get from one star to another star is insane. You need to travel at the speed of light.
When we explore, we're wandering at the edges of us. Exploring our universe.
If you could put the universe into a tube, you'd end up with a very long tube.
Gale Crater.
It's the Tillman's crest.
That rocked. Seriously, is that not cool or what? Woo!
I think that this nation is a truly great representation of a corner or a piece of humanity that reaches out and explores and conquers and engineers. We are kind of tool makers, agriculturalists.
Every star has a sister star.
A huge crater near the equator. That rhymes.
If you could put the universe into a tube, you'd end up with a very long tube, probably extending twice the size of the universe.
This is a shaded topographical relief map.
The black hole.
You're in an emotional void. You're in what we call, at work, the dark room.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions now from the news media.
Adam, tell us about the landing.
All right, Greg. I can't tell you too much about it. I mean, it looks good.
See the little dipster, or I see the big dipster. Every star has a sister star.
very nominal, remarkably good. Our navigation error was on the low side of our expectation. We touched down in conditions that were on the more benign side of our nominal expectation. Largely by my good friend Miguel San Martin, who's somewhere out there, I hope. Our powered flight appears to have been excellent. If my good friend Ben Toma is in the house, is Ben in the house?
I have to ask you, what kind of file type? Can you tell us about the image file type and compression that was used to send this very important couple of thumbnails back from Mars?
Yes, unfortunately, I absolutely cannot. If Justin Mackey is in the room, or...
Gonna call your daughter Curiosity? A little more than 48 hours ago, you told me you would tell me a secret. Once Curiosity landed. Can I have my secret?
Yeah, what was this?
Leo Enright from Irish television, coordinates for the landing that go down to something like 5 decimal points. I just wanted to confirm with you that you do have them, have those sort of coordinates. And am I reading those coordinates correctly when I see that it looks as though you've landed within 500 meters of the skirt around the mountain? That, I mean, you're really very close to the mountain at the closer end in the landing ellipse, and possibly within striking distance of the phyllosilicate trench.
I can't confirm that. My estimate, I'm looking for somebody. Yes, there's somebody in the audience here who has that in the tip of their noggin. We should have soon that estimate.
I may be imagining this, but the one time during the landing the temperature seemed to drop in the room was when Adam asked for OD 278, and they said, no, we only have 277. What was happening, or was it anything of significance?
No. With our simulation tool, based on those updated ODs. And so I had seen that OD at 228 had come up, and I was asking if they had that, because I had it, and they didn't have it over there yet, and they hadn't started it. That was what that was about.
There are hundreds of stars in the sky, and all you have to do is look with your eyes. If you can picture a star, imagine a basketball or a small baseball that becomes larger to be the size of a basketball, and then quadruple it.
I think I know how that's done.
And what a bargain that we got this mission for. This movie costed you less than $7 per American citizen. And look at the excitement that we have brought.
I think I know how that's done.
And at the NASA briefing today, they called the surroundings Earth-like and admitted it looks like the Mojave Desert for all you conspiracy theorists.
By the way, I want to preface everything. This is preliminary data scooped with the sieve in the cacophony of the...
Collapse the universe, it expands, and it would be, you wouldn't want to put it into a tube.